You're watching Every Days and Saturdays, USCC veteran. Let's go, baby. And here's your host, Brian. What's going on, friends and fam? Welcome back to another great day, another great interview. Hopefully you guys 2025 is treating you well so far, and we're not cheating on our New Year's resolutions and all that good stuff that everybody, we start off so strong in January and in February everybody dies out. Well, anyways, 2025, remember that's our year. Let's keep going strong, keep moving forward. I'm excited for my next guest. She actually served in two different branches. One I've never got. This is going to be the first time we've ever had someone from the Air National Guard, so I'm excited to have her speak about that. And she's also an Army veteran. She's also an author. So here to talk all about herself and all the things she's doing is Bevin Goldsmith. Welcome to the show.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, welcome. I'm excited to have you on and excited for you to tell us all about your life. Tell us, where you grew up, what made you decide to go into the military and, go reservist first. That's kind of different. And then, what transition looked like when you got out and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. So I grew up here in Michigan in Rochester Hills. I have a really prominent military family. So my dad was in the Navy. My uncle was in the Marine Corps. I got a lot of Marines in my family. So Marines, Navy, a couple Army. I was actually the first person to pick Air Force. So I was like the oddball out.
I'm sure you got, the Marines in your family like to razz you a lot. So
yeah, I get
we
that.
do talk a little bit of crap.
My brother Philip is actually a Marine. Him and I were really close growing up. When I was getting ready to go in, I was initially going to go in the Marine Corps, and he was stationed in Japan at the time. So I called him and let him know that I'd been talking to the recruiter, and he straight up told me, if you join the Marines, I swear to God, I won't talk to you again. So I don't know what was going on at that point, but he clearly didn't want me to join. So I went Air National Guard.
All right. Well, that's awesome. And so tell us about Air National Guard and, how that all works. You guys got to go through boot camp, I'm sure, just like everybody else. But, tell us a little bit more about how the Air National Guard worked.
So Air National Guard, obviously part-time. So we do our 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks out of the year. I did my basic training down at Lackland Air Force Base. I was there for about 6.5 weeks. Yeah, I was there for 6.5 weeks. And then when I went into the Air National Guard, I was actually a crew chief. So I went and I did my tech school at Shepherd Air Force Base in Texas.
Okay.
And I was there for 2 months, a couple months where we work on cold planes. So all planes that have been decommissioned, but they still operate. You can still turn them on and stuff like that. And then from there, I went to my hot training at Luke Air Force Base in Phoenix, Arizona. So those planes are all operational. So we're all like, marshaling planes and fixing them if something breaks. And I was actually able to work on some of the Thunderbirds out there. So that was pretty cool.
Nice. Yeah, that is cool.
And then from Luke, I came back to Selfridge Air National Guard Base where I worked. I don't think they call it AGR. I think they call it something else. But I worked full-time up there, working on the planes up there for a long period of time, which was cold because it's right next to Lake St. Clair. So it's not like the best place to work in the wintertime. But it was a lot of work. I don't know. Being a crew chief, like, you got to get out there super early in the morning, make sure the plane is like all good to go. And I don't know, like, people don't understand how often planes break, like, continuously, like multi-billion-dollar aircraft, little pebbles.
People probably don't want to know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a bird strike.
A lot less flights.
Yeah. Or the brakes will just like stop working because even though you just worked on them the day before and they were fine. So that's one of the things that we would go through before we would marshal them out. So we do our little checks around the plane and we check the brakes by putting our hands like on the hydraulic line to make sure they were actually pumping. Okay. There were a few times that my pilot would go to check the brakes and they weren't pumping at all. And I'd be like, yeah, you got to find a different plane, man. Like, you're not going to be able to stop when you come back down. You got to get in a different one.
Okay. Wow.
So,
was that pretty common though? Or, I mean, that you would have to switch planes a lot more than you'd probably think?
It was actually really common. And they didn't like it because, you know, especially those pilots that are out there, they're in the Guard, so they're out there part-time. So generally when they come out there to fly, they're trying to renew all their certifications. So if they can't fly, they don't get those hours. And if that's their assigned plane, then they got to schedule a time to come back out there again, or they borrow somebody else's plane, which is not preferable because they don't know that plane. Like
right.
Every plane has its own mood, has its own personality.
Sure.
So, you know, you get, it's like a car, like you get in somebody else's car. You don't know anything about that thing. So
all the adjustments, I'm sure too, you got to make to the seats and everything else. I mean, I'm sure it's fitted for whatever pilot it's made for.
So one of the other things I would do as a crew chief is we get up there in the cockpit, turn everything on for them, make sure everything is working, make sure the seats where they want it to be. You know, the canopy is nice and clean and everything. We literally prep everything for them so that when they get in there, they really don't have to do anything except drive the thing, you know, like take it to
turn some buttons on.
Yeah. Turn like a couple buttons and that's it. Otherwise I turn all that stuff on for them and adjust.
Oh yeah. Shit. By the time they get on, it's already warmed up a little bit.
It's already warmed up. And then they get up there and I follow them up to the cockpit with the ladder. I help them, you know, like put their helmet or whatever on, plug their oxygen cord in. I'm knocking on their helmet. You okay? Is there anything else you need? No.
It's like your mom a little bit. Like here, this needs to be tightened up a little bit like, more. A couple times, you didn't button that up, sir.
Like the flight suit. I'm like, is that too high? Is it? No, just lower it a little. I'm like, okay. Is it pinching your neck? Okay. Like zip it down a little bit.
Oh gosh, that's funny.
Yeah. So it's always you got to take care of your pilot. Otherwise it's they can be a little moody if you don't take care of them. So
yeah, officers have a little way to themselves, right?
They're very
set in their ways.
They are.
That's right. So did you guys ever have any like mishaps happen on the flight line and stuff like that, or was everything pretty well under control? I mean, even though it sounds like some of these planes were like questionable.
Aside from like the minor things that I described, like sometimes the brakes would stop working, or you know, the JFS, which is like part of the engine system, when you turn the plane on, sometimes it would cough because there'd be JP8 stuck inside of there. So when it coughs, it would actually like spit out flames.
Oh.
So but those, I mean, to us, those aren't necessarily mishaps. Those are like pretty normal things. I think to other people, they would be mishaps. But other than that, there was a mishap. So when I first went into the Air National Guard, I had long hair like I have now. And I had thought about cutting it while I was in, because I'd be climbing inside fuselages and my bun would get like caught and stuff like that. And so one day I was marshaling out in aircraft. Well, I was going around. When you go under the jet stream, obviously the jet stream just shoots straight back when it's on. So you got to go under. Well, I went under enough for myself, but I didn't go under enough for my bun. And my bun got caught in the jet stream and I didn't realize it. So I ended up catching my hair on fire. And I'm going through all the checks.
Well, there's the cut that you were looking for. Shit.
I'm like going through all the checks, not even paying attention. I can't smell burning hair because I'm right next to the aircraft. So I finish up all my checks. I'm talking to the pilot. I'm like, all right, you're good to go. And I disconnect from the plane, go around the other side. My B man is like standing by the fire bottle. And they're like looking at me and they're like, something not right with this picture. And then my pilot, like I'm looking up at my pilot and I'm trying to like marshal him out and he's going like this.
Oh,
I'm like,
no.
I don't know what that hand sign is. What is this? I don't know what's happening. So I'm like, whatever. He's just, I don't know. He's probably being an idiot. So I'm just like trying to marshal him out. My B man finally comes like up towards the front of the plane and is pointing at his head and is mouthing like, you're on fire. Well, then I started smelling burning hair. And I was like, what is happening? So I like reached back there. I was like, oh my God. So I'm like smacking my head. I finally got it out. But I like burned, look, because I had a sock bun. So it was like sock, hair, and it didn't touch my scalp at all because the sock was there. So I ended up coming back.
Good thing for that sock. Shit.
Good thing for that sock. So I came back the next day and I had a shaved head because I couldn't fix it. So.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I bet that thing was all kind of messed up because.
Yeah, I didn't live that down the rest of the time I was working there. And I was with the 127th wing. Yeah, it's pretty
wow.
bad.
Welcome.
That was right when I got back from tech school. That was my
Oh yeah, they're calling you the new booty coming out,
and I was retarded because I caught my head on fire.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, they were worried about you coming in right off rip. Yeah. She's gonna be a liability.
She's gonna bring us some issues. You gotta keep an eye on that one.
Oh shit. So now talk about how you kind of progress through it, and what is it, 6 years you got to do with the Air National Guard?
Yep. So I had signed up for 6 years initially. I did 3. And then probably about the two-year mark is when I really wanted to go into law enforcement. It was something that I wanted to go into when I was a kid.
Okay.
But I really loved planes as well, so I kind of just picked one. I also really wanted to deploy because everyone in my brother had deployed. My cousin Weston had deployed. So my brother deployed for OEF. Or no, OIF, the beginning. And then my cousin deployed for OEF. So
is he like 2003, 2004, 5,
yeah,
6?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So he's around my time frame.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, I really want to deploy. And my squadron or my unit was not deploying until like 2012. And it was about 2007, almost 2008 at that time. So I was working on going into law enforcement. Another friend of mine I worked with actually worked for the Detroit Police Department. And he was telling me, yeah, I was 20 at the time. So he was like, yeah, I wouldn't go work for Detroit right now. It's probably not a good idea. Maybe you should like switch to security forces or something like that. I was like, I don't know, maybe. Do I want to do it in the Air Force? I don't know. Because I was still thinking about like I have a super like Marine Corps prominent family where it's like, you're doing what?
You better. Yeah, you get a lot of
I'm like, I gotta step up my game somehow so I don't get picked on so much. So my cousin Weston, who was in the Army, he was infantry. He was like, why don't you just transfer and go into MP? I was like, that's a great idea. I'll do that. That sounds amazing. So, me, I'm like all proud of myself, transferring to the Army, and then I get to basic training, and I learned that they do this thing where they actually, like, they smoke you, and there's, like, hazing involved, which is nothing that was part of the Air Force. So it's like a huge culture shock for me. Just having to do, like, push-ups just because someone didn't like you and things like this. It's just things. The Air Force is just different in how they treat people. They treat people like people. That's what it is. They treat people like people.
So did you end up having to go to Army boot camp?
So I went to
or just a training school or did they make you do boot camp?
So they made me go through what's called a prior service basic training, which was held down in Santa Fe, New Mexico with the 515th. I want to say it was like the training group down there.
Okay.
But I did a couple weeks at Fort Sill. So they sent us to Fort Sill first, which is where we started like our Army indoctrination, I guess you could call it. And then from Fort Sill, they sent us to Santa Fe. We were in Santa Fe for about 2 or 3 months. And then from Santa Fe, they sent me to Fort Leonard Wood, where I did like the last 2 weeks of basic training with the unit I was attached to. And then we transitioned right into the Military Police Academy, which was 2-3 months. I want to say it was like 3 months. So yeah.
Wow. Interesting. So it was pretty big culture shock for you then?
Yeah, that was a huge culture shock for me. It was the first time that I'd ever done a legitimate ruck march. Like we did a 3-mile ruck march for like our rite of passage for our basic training in Santa Fe. And I don't know if you've ever been to Santa Fe, but there's like,
I don't think so.
Yeah, it's just rocks. There's just rocks.
It's just rocks.
Just rocks and mountains, and it's just cold because it was November. It was like November, December timeframe. It was just miserable.
Yeah, it sounds a miserable thing.
Yeah, and they had us do this like 3-mile ruck march in a trench that it didn't make any sense. It was just like in a trench, and then we had to do this ruck march, and at the end we had to drink out of a grog, which was oh god, yeah, it was it was a huge culture shock for me because
they make you guys ever do an ammo run?
Oh yeah,
you guys got to carry ammo for miles on end, like miles.
Oh yeah, because we were the majority of us were transitioning from Air Force and Navy. There were a couple of Marine guys in there, but like the Navy and the Marine guys, they were transitioning because I guess, mind you, this was 2008. There were some jobs that they were getting rid of.
Away. Yeah.
Yeah. So those guys were like, well, I don't want to do a different job. I want to do the same job. So they just transitioned into the Army so they could stay with like that same thing.
I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did away with tanks. They did away with a lot of stuff in the Marine Corps. So
yeah,
kind of crazy. Well, that's interesting. So, when they finally gave you a duty station, how was that for you going to your first duty station and all that?
And
where was it?
So my first duty station was in Korea. I was stationed at Camp Colby.
Damn. They sent you overseas right off rip, huh? Did you ask for that? Did you guys get a little wish list or nothing?
We got a wish list, and Korea was nowhere on there. Okay, I had like Hawaii, somewhere else stateside, and I think Germany. Germany was like my top pick. So all the friends that I went to through like Santa Fe and Fort Sill and all that stuff with and the Military Police Academy, every single one of them got Germany. And I was the odd man that got Korea.
Wow. So
the drill sergeants are coming out laughing and they're like, okay, out of your whole little cohort, Goldsmith here is the one that gets Korea. Everybody else gets Germany. Good luck to you.
Shit.
So I was like, great. That's awesome. They were all laughing, and of course I was new, so I was like, I don't know why this is funny. I don't know. And then I got there, and I was like, oh, I get it. It's all so clear to me.
I got to hear about Korea. How was Korea for you? Did they let you guys go out and stuff in town and things like that?
But
because there's a big butt there, huh?
So off post. The majority of things to do off post, you really shouldn't be doing. So there's like this area.
All the activities are no good, huh?
All of the adult activities, which gets, GIs in trouble consistently or, booted out. They were all, conveniently located off post right outside the gate. So there was actually this one area called the Turkey Farm. And it was a 1-by-1 mile square of nothing but prostitutes. in this square. So
Wow.
as an MP, we would have to go.
They call them turkeys.
We called it the turkey farm. Don't ask me why. I have no idea. I've never ever figured it out. It's just what I was told.
Oh
So
my gosh.
we had to like
Oh,
patrol it.
military members are so great. I love our humor.
Our sense of humor is priceless.
Yeah.
I still try to explain it to my dad to this day, and he's just like, that just sounds inappropriate. I'm like, it is inappropriate, but it's funny.
Right. It wouldn't be the military if it wasn't inappropriate, probably. So
You have to have a level of humor for this job in order to cope. Like,
oh gosh, no kidding.
It's a prerequisite.
Yeah, right. Or it's going to be you'll be miserable. Will really eat you up if you don't know how to have a little bit of some fun.
If you don't allow yourself to go just a little bit insane and just embrace that insanity, good luck to you.
Yeah, where you go a little la and you're just, and you're just like, well, fucking this guy's lost it. Yeah. We'll get through it.
Figure out how to get through. But I think one of the greatest things about patrolling that little area was you'd have these new guys that, like the new boots, that just got out of basic training, got stationed over in Korea. You know, they're like 18, 19 years old. They're big boys now. They got their big boy panties on. And they're, you know, trying to do like whatever they want. And they go into this area. Mind you, all these little buildings that these professional ladies work in they have door walls. Okay. And then there's like a little back room with like a curtain. The thing about
not even girls, some of them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know. I didn't go that far into investigation. I don't know. Whatever is your thing. So the thing is, you have to take your shoes off before you go inside. It's customary. It's like an Asian thing. It's customary to take your shoes off. So all these guys would be taking their shoes off. Well, you'd have, you know, Joe Snuffy deciding to get off work and go see, you know, the juicy girl or whoever that he's in love with. And he would take his boots off and leave them outside on the rug. And then we would come through, we would patrol, and we would just look for boots. And wherever we would find tan boots, we would just knock on the door wall. Excuse me, can we come in for a moment? And yeah. So.
Oh, that's great. Jeez, I'm sure you caught a lot of them.
Quite a few.
Or if you ever needed something to do, well, let's go to the turkey farm.
We'd wait for Ville Patrol. It was from 9 p.m. to 2 a.m. the next morning. That's when we always got them. We'd be like, all right, who wants to go to the turkey farm?
And so, and also, you're not considered one of the young ones at this point in time, right? Because you're already, what, mid-20s by this point in time? Late 20s?
Yeah. I was.
Oh, no, you said, so you did 3 years. So
I was like 21, 22.
Yeah, but so
I went in as an E4, and I was already a corporal at this point. So I was a team leader.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I already had like experience under my belt with like supervising and taking care of stuff.
So you came in no fun already, right? They're like, oh, she's just too serious, man.
Basically. Well, no, what happened was they found out I was homeschooled, and they were like, that one right there, make her a team leader. And I was like, me? Why me? I just got here. Like, well, because we don't trust any of these other
perfect,
people.
Right? You're perfect for the job. Whip these boys into shape. That's great. So how long were you in Korea for?
I was in Korea for a year. So I got there in March of 2009. And then I left the following March in 2010. And funny story, when I left Korea, I was supposed to go to Fort Carson. And the Army being the Army, mid-flight on my way to Fort Carson, changed my orders to Fort Polk.
Oh.
So I get to Fort Carson, I'm in briefing or the in processing, and I'm waiting for my name to be called. And, you know, they don't call my name, and I'm just sitting there, and I don't want to raise my hand because I'm the new person on post. I'm like, oh my God. All right. So I raised my hand. I'm like, excuse me, my name wasn't called. They're like, probably because it wasn't on the list. Are you supposed to be here? I'm like, pretty sure I am. So I show them my orders, and they're like,
As far
okay.
as I know.
As far as I know, I don't know. I just do what I'm told, man. So then they send me over to branch to get my orders checked. And the lady there, it was like 11 in the afternoon. So she was already done. Like, she didn't want to be there anymore. She was done peopling for the day. So she's looking at me and she's like, yeah, your order's changed. I'm like, oh, okay. She's like, so she looks over her glasses at me. She's like, do you want to stay here or do you want to go to Fort Polk? Of course, me being a retard, because I don't know any better, I'm like, no, send me to Fort Polk. I'll go there. She's like, are you sure? Like, yeah, no, let's do it. Send me to Fort Polk. She's like, okay. She cuts me a some fresh orders, and she's like, here you go. Good luck to you. I'm like, okay.
You are off again to some good luck shit, right? You were already good luck in Korea. Now it's good luck here.
Yeah, the moment someone says good luck to you when they're handing you paper.
How bad, at this point, how bad can it be? You already been to Korea, so shit.
I mean, that's true. But no, Fort Polk was, I do not prefer Fort Polk. Other people may prefer.
Where's Fort Polk
place.
at?
Louisiana.
Oh, it's in the South.
So it's just hot. It's just hot.
Humid and hot there.
Humid. You're swimming through the air. That's what it is. That's what it is. That's how humid it is. You can be like fresh and clean in your barracks room, ready for PT. The moment you step outside, you're soaked in sweat. It's just,
Gosh, damn.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So how long were you there? Did you go somewhere else after that, or did you finish off your time?
So Fort Polk is where I did so the unit I got attached to, which was the 272nd MP Company, they had just moved from Germany to Fort Polk. So I was one of like 10 soldiers in this unit for about probably towards the end of the month.
Isn't that ironic? You wanted to go to Germany, and now you're getting stuck with all these people coming back from the place you wanted to go.
So I was like one of 10 soldiers there till about the end of the month is when they got the numbers up to like 30. And then they decided to put us in pre-deployment training. So we ended up going in pre-deployment training for a year, which if you've ever been to Louisiana, is a miserable place to do pre-deployment training, but that's really where they do all pre-deployment training. So they would, we'd go out in the woods for, weeks and do all of our training or whatever. And then we had to do
you guys going back into the swamps or something?
Yeah.
Sending you guys back in the swamp?
I'm like, wait a minute. When are we going to be in a swamp in Iraq?
Hanging out at the bayou?
Yeah. There was actually a time when I first got to Fort Polk, we did what was called a swamp run, where we did like 2 or 3 miles through the swamp, where the swamp water was like up to your neck.
In their boots and utes or something like that?
Full battle.
Oh, gosh, damn.
You just didn't have to put your ACH on because they didn't want anyone to drown, even though you were in full battle anyway. So what does a hat, like, what does a helmet have? Like, I don't know how that tips the scale, but whatever.
I guess you could hold your head above water without having that on at that point. I don't know.
Well, I got super sick after that because trying to rush through that
some water.
Trying to rush through that swamp water. I ended up getting the amphibian flu.
Oh shit! What is that?
It's not something that you
doesn't sound good. Yeah, it doesn't sound good at all.
One of those weird, crazy diseases that you can.
Were you the only one, or was there a couple others?
There was like one other person that got it.
Oh, sheesh! You're just that unlucky fucking
unlucky.
Person.
I was best friends with Murphy the whole time.
Oh no! Yeah, both ends I imagine were just flowing.
Yeah, it was awful. So, my thing was like, because I woke up that morning, they're like, "Yeah, we're gonna go do PT," and I was like, "Oh, okay." Yeah, but you got to go back to your room, put your full battle on. I'm like, "What?" All right, fine. I don't know. This place is weird already. So then I showed up and they're like, yeah, so we're going to run through the swamp. We're going to do a swamp run. Who does that? Why is this a thing? So yeah, no, me and one other person ended up catching the amphibian flu. It was not.
How long were you down with that? Like a week or something, or less? Or does it
It
take
was
a while to run through the body?
like a week and a half kind of a thing.
Oh gosh, were you just miserable? Yeah,
Yeah,
even more miserable.
even more miserable because they're like, yeah, you're fine. Just drink some water, take this ibuprofen. Don't forget to come to work, and you have to do PT. Like what?
Damn,
So,
well, this shit, no fucks given right there.
like you're in pre-deployment training right now. We're preparing you for the worst. Oh, okay. Hopefully, I don't die by the end of this.
Oh gosh, they're like, well, hopefully you don't. Drink water. Get some water and Motrin. You're good to go.
One
Keep
of the
your eye.
one less person we have to worry about taking to chow if you die.
Oh shit! So how long were you in good old Louisiana?
So about 3 years. So I pretty much finished my
damn! You
army time there because I was there
did
for
4
a
years
year.
total.
Yeah, so I was there for a year for my pre-deployment training, and then I deployed to Iraq. Was in Iraq and Kuwait for a year, then came back to Louisiana.
Doha? We guys in Doha in the Kuwait, or where we guys at in Kuwait?
So we were at Camp Buehring in Kuwait. And then from there, we got flown out to Fob Warhorse, which is in the Diyala province. And while we were out there, we did like training the Iraqi soldiers, law enforcement work. We did counter IED missions. So we would go out, find bombs, and then call EOD. We would do a bunch of KLEs, like key leadership engagements. That's where I started doing the FET missions, or the female engagement team. So I would get attached to the infantry or the special forces groups over there, and I would go
MP, out. What, like a 12 Bravo? What is MPs? What do you guys?
It's an 11 Bravo.
Oh, 11 Bravo. Oh, so you guys are still 11 Bravo. Okay.
Yeah. So you got the generalized MP, which is 11 Bravo, and then you've got like the Echoes, which are the ones who are primarily jailers. And then you have the Kilos, which are the canine guys, and then there's a couple other. It's like an alphabet soup, really.
I thought 11 Bravo was infantry, no? Or is that?
Or I'm sorry, 31 Bravo. 11 Bravo is infantry. 31 Bravo is military police.
Okay, yeah. I see it. I know a little bit about something in here.
Yeah, it's like playing bingo when people ask me those. And I'm like, hang on, I got to think about it for a second.
Yeah, because you went from different, verbiage in the Air Force. Everybody has their own verbiage. Even when you go in the Marine Corps, we use a lot of acronyms and we call a lot of things different things when, so definitely know the verbiage switches up.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I was over there for a year. And then after I got back, I had actually waived my dwell time, and I was supposed to go back to Korea because before I left Korea, they had asked me if I wanted to be the NCOSC of traffic over there. So I wanted to go back over there.
You wanted to go back?
I did want to go back. I did actually.
Shit. Damn. Okay.
So the plan was to go back over there and to just finish over there and just be over there for as long as they would allow me to be over there. That was my plan. But I ended up getting pregnant with my daughter. So I was like,
plans changed.
Yeah, I was deployed with a couple of my female friends who had kids or had newborns, and they were away from them the whole year, and just watching them go through that process. I did not want that for my daughter, and I definitely didn't want it for myself. It was so much. It was just really hard on them. Right. And yeah, I was like, yeah, no, I'm going to get out. So I ended up dropping my Chapter 8 package for pregnancy, and I got out. But because I'm a busybody and I can't sit still, I had already set up to go back to school full time like a week after I got out. So a week after I got out of the military, I was already going to college full time to do my degree. So,
Oh,
and I, yeah, and I was still pregnant. So I didn't
wow.
get out until was in my third trimester. So I was still doing PT and all the things while I was pregnant, because apparently the mission doesn't stop just because you're carrying a child. So,
Yeah. If they wanted you to have a child, they would have issued you one.
they would have issued you one. Didn't
Yeah,
pick
there
that
you go.
high.
All right. Well, this is probably a good moment to take a quick break. Go ahead and shout down some water, take a little quick break. We're going to do a quick commercial. And then when we come back, we'll talk about how transitioning out of the military was for you, what that looked like. And did you struggle? Did you not struggle? And then talk about, what you got going on now today with your books and stuff. So
Yeah, for
stand
sure.
by and we'll be right back. Let's see. What are we going to listen to?
Join us for Hero Stock, a special event dedicated to honoring our veterans and first responders. Experience a day filled with incredible live music performed by those who served and protected our communities. Connect with our nonprofits dedicated to helping our heroes thrive. Discover the services available to support our veterans and first responders in their journey. Bring the whole family. Kids will love the fun activities designed just for them. Reconnect with your community and celebrate the courage and sacrifice of our heroes at Hero Stock. Join us for a day of music, support, and togetherness. Check us out today on www.herostock.org.
All right. And we're back. So, all right, let's go ahead and talk about, what transitioning out of the military looked like for you. And especially, I mean, being a new mom on top of it, I got to imagine that was a challenge within itself. So, yeah, let us know.
Yeah. So I think being a new mom was obviously it was really difficult because I was coming from this military culture of being very hard and having a very different outlook on things, to getting ready to have a kid and needing to be empathetic and sensitive and caring and all the things that we are not generally when we are in the military, especially if you're good at your job. You're definitely not those things. So having to learn how to regulate my emotions was definitely it was a process.
I would imagine.
Yeah. On the other hand, one of the main things that soldiers really struggle with when they get out is a sense of purpose. So you get out, what are you going to do now? What is your sense of purpose? You just got done driving around multi-billion-dollar vehicles, saving the world like Rambo. And now you get out and you're like, when am I going to go to school? Like that sounds boring.
Yeah.
What? And then, you got a counselor looking at you saying, well, what do you want to go to school for? Do you want to go to school for, do you want to be a doctor? Do you want to go for accounting? And it's like nothing is sounds interesting. So
there's like basically talking to a blank wall at this moment because you're like, nothing's catching my ear here.
Do I get to hunt people as an accountant? Do that? Is that legal out here?
You telling me I got to sit here and count stuff? Oh gosh, darn
People can't do that on their own. What? So the upside of becoming a mom was I had a new sense of purpose. So I was able to embrace, okay, this is my new mission is being a mom. So I started really trying to gear myself towards how to do that, and every first time parent, you don't know what you're doing.
Right.
But
no, there's no manual for that shit.
No, there's no manual for that.
And you know what? And anybody can give you a manual. Not every manual will fit for every child either. So.
Oh my God, no. I know my dad, he straight up told me, he was like, I have absolutely full faith in you. You'll figure it out. You'll adapt. You'll overcome. You'll figure it out. And of course, my mom was like, I have these books. You could read these books. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not reading that crap. I'm not. Thank you, but no, thank you. So it was really interesting because, I had my daughter, and she went with me. She was with me on my transition journey. So, and she's 11 now because I got out in 2013. Damn. So, and I have a 4-year-old son now. So something I told a really good friend of mine was, I see the difference between my son and my daughter, where my daughter is like a Navy SEAL, for God's sake. It is so difficult to discipline her. She's just adaptable to everything. You could take all of her privileges away. She'll be like, fine, I'll just sit here and twiddle my thumbs. She'll be like super savage about stuff. She's very adaptable. So the version of me that she got was the very like military, transitioning out, like very hard version.
You can see her being tough. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, what are you crying for? You're not bleeding. There's no open fracture. You're fine. Just like, we're moving on now. Whereas
that's interesting because a lot of people with their first kids are always like, oh my gosh, what happened? It's usually the next couple of kids that you're you start to, lessen up on that.
Mm-hmm. And I was like that to a point.
Right.
But, there were a lot of things where like other parents, like not allowing their kids to cry ever.
Right.
Like at all.
Yeah.
That was not a thing for me. Like I would comfort her, but if I told her no and she started crying, then she was crying. I'm like, okay, well, you're crying. I don't know what to tell you. I said no. Whereas other parents would come in and be like, no, it's okay. Don't cry. I know I said no, but that was not me. I was the complete opposite of that. So now I have my 4-year-old son, and the version of me that he gets is the well emotionally regulated version of myself. So they're like two polar opposite kids where
you feel like you're more attentive now and stuff like that because I think when you were first get out, you were probably still very more like headstrong.
Yeah, I was very hyper vigilant. I was, plus it only been a year since I got back from deployment.
Did you go through like postpartum and all that stuff with your daughter, or?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So it was like I was going through like symptoms of PTSD from Iraq.
Right. So that's what I was saying. Like, man, and on top of postpartum, I mean, like, let's talk a little bit about that kind of stuff because, I imagine this is a part that we don't really get to hear, from our female counterparts is that there's a whole other thing when they go through pregnancy of postpartum, and then you're dealing with postpartum plus PTSD. There's just a plethora of things you're mentally going through that, like, I don't think a lot of people understand that you have like a whole other couple things there that aren't normally there with other people.
Yeah. So I think one thing that, because I got in this conversation with my friend who has 3 kids.
Yeah.
And she was asking me like, how do you deal with that? Like, how do you handle that? I'm like, most people don't understand. Like, you have these women who are combat vets and they come home, they have PTSD, and they got to figure out how to deal with their kids and deal with their PTSD at the same time. So I'm hyper vigilant about everything. I constantly feel like people are watching me. Plus I have a kid, which like multiplies everything. And there would be nights where I would put her down to bed and I would like put toys in front of the door. I lived in like a loft kind of apartment. So my front door was actually like down the stairs, but I would put like toys at the top of the stairs on purpose. And it was just my hypervigilance. Like
Your little alarm. Yeah.
Just in case like someone came through the door.
And that was like a little bit of a security blanket for you as though you're thinking you're handling it right. Yeah.
But other people would look at that and think that's not healthy. Well, here's the spiel. For us, that is healthy because you have to understand the culture that we just came from.
Yeah, it's weird because like when you talk to me too, it just sounds normal, right? I'm like, oh yeah, oh you're doing that, like okay, other people, you're right, would be like, why are you doing that?
When you're deployed, there's 3 things that you're thinking about. When am I going to eat? When am I going to sleep? Who is going to try and kill me today?
Right.
So you come back from that after a year of being in it, your brain is physiologically changed and most likely won't go back to the way that it was before. It's not going to go back. You just have to figure out how to cope with it and at least look normal. So, trying to like going to the grocery store with my daughter when she was a baby. I was always carrying. I was always concealed carrying my gun. I was always, like I would always have a grocery list, not because I would forget something, but I think it was more of a, okay, we're going in here, we're getting these items and we're getting out because I don't like being around crowds because this was still the time I didn't go to the mall, didn't go out of my way to like go to like large family gatherings or anything like that. But on the same note, I would try to push myself to go to the park or something like that for my daughter because I did feel bad that
we start to rob our kids of things, right? Because of our own mental.
So I'd be like, man, my kid is going to have a complex at the end of this because, mommy doesn't want to go and play on the swings.
Complex or a fucking bill from the psych ward or something.
Right. I'm like, I have to figure out how to make life more fun for her because this is not fun for her. Like all I want to do is be in my house, and I was going to school at the time. So I would go to school. When I was done at school, I would come straight home. There was no like, I didn't go anywhere if I didn't have to go anywhere, I didn't go anywhere.
Sure.
So it did get to a point where I really put my own foot down with myself, and I started taking her to the park. And, I would set a timer on my phone. Hey, we're going to be here for 30 minutes. I'm not going to like it, but we're going to be here for 30 minutes.
Right.
And once the timer went off, I was like, okay, time to go. Let's go.
Do you find yourself doing that for a lot of things where everything's kind of like time limits? Like if I go here, we're going there, but it's going to be 2 hours and I'm gone. Or do you?
I do. It's gotten like my anxiety has gotten, I don't necessarily want to say anxiety, but it's like there's like levels of tolerance, I guess we'll say. So like, being around, large groups of people or something like that. I'm not an antisocial person. I'm a very social person. I just don't go out of my way to be social if I don't have to be, if that makes sense. So there'll be times where my kids will say, hey, we want to go walk around the mall. I'm like, okay, we can go do that. We go walk around the mall. I know my limits, an hour and a half tops. That's it. Once the hour and a half mark hits, we're heading towards the parking lot and we're leaving. Otherwise, mommy's going to lose her crap and it's not going to be fun for her. Okay. Ice cream all around.
As that hour mark starts to get there too, you're like, okay, we're there.
And my daughter already knows. That's the thing. Yeah. She knows me so well. She's already looking over at me like, how much longer do we have? I'm like, you know what? We got 20 minutes. If you guys want a pretzel, you better ask me now. Otherwise, it's not happening. Well, of course, my son is 4, so he's like, I don't know what's going on. It's whatever. Like, he always looks to his sister for everything. Like,
Is this
So,
okay? Yeah.
yeah, and then my daughter will look at him and be like, "It's okay, mommy's fine." She just gets a little anxious sometimes.
That's great. It's too much. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy too. Like my first two kids, I have a little dude who's 7 now.
Mhm.
It's two different worlds for them and two different dads that they got, right?
Yeah,
My two older ones, they got the first experience dad, like
yeah,
this has never been a thing for me. And I'm also dealing with all kinds of shit that I'm not dealing with,
yeah.
right? And then yeah, I for my first two kids, I've had to do a lot of apologizing to them and telling
Mhm.
them I apologize for the way that I was a dad to you guys. You guys deserve better,
Yeah,
and I it's like one of those things. That's why I think it's important for us to talk about these kind of things on these shows and stuff like
yeah,
that, so it gets out there, so like the younger people that are getting out can kind of process things a little bit faster. I
yeah,
mean, it took a long ass time for me to get through a lot of shit,
yeah.
and there's things I still probably need to process through, right?
Oh,
Um, we're constantly repairing ourselves and working on ourselves, especially if you have years and years of damage, trying to heal those wounds takes a little time.
yeah,
But the good thing is that you're cognizant of a lot of these things, right? And
yeah,
you're knowing what's going on, and that's why for your 4-year-old, he's going to have a different mom than the 11-year-old. But um, obviously, your 11-year-old, she has
she's
respect for you and she understands, right? Like,
she's amazing. She
our
is
first kids are
amazing.
our first kids because we needed them.
Yeah,
We needed them more than they probably needed us,
yes, I would
and
agree with that.
so my daughter, same thing with her. She's now in college, and
Yeah,
she's like on her 3rd year of college, and she just has an amazing head on her shoulder, and
yeah,
the odds were against her. She could have
mhm,
been different and stuff like that, but she's doing amazing, and we have a great relationship now because you have to own shit to
mhm,
repair it, right? So I
right,
had to own some things, and now we were able to move forward, and now we just everything's forward, and we build on what we have.
yeah. And I find myself doing the same thing, like with my daughter and with my son. Where I will, um, we get a little overstimulated sometimes.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
yeah, it's a little difficult to handle. And little people, they're constantly asking you questions and touching you and grabbing you and naming things
Mm.
constantly and ask you the same question 1,000 times. And sometimes I don't respond to that very well sometimes. And I
No.
have to come back and apologize to my daughter. And my daughter normally comes back with, "It's okay. I get it, mom." And
Yeah.
my son, of course, because he didn't get that version of me when I first got out, he's like, "Okay, I forgive you." And then that's it. But with
Yeah.
my daughter, it's a very heartfelt, I get it, mom. It's
Yeah.
okay.
And I think a lot of people don't understand. It's hard for us, right? We don't want to be that way,
Yeah, we don't.
right? We don't, right? And we once it's happening, it's like you're not really cognizant of it till after.
Yeah.
Because I think we're just trained to fight everything as like everything when something's wrong, it's the enemy. We hate that thing. We just got this. We don't know how to turn anything off or separate our kids from
Yeah.
this or whatever.
It's
I mean,
not it's not a flip a switch.
hell no. And I mean, I've been out fucking, what is it, 20 years now.
Yeah.
And I still got a lot of issues and ticks and stuff
Yeah.
like that, even that my 7-year-old's got to deal with. Um, it's just the realization at least is there. Like
Mhm.
I could realize afterwards, like, okay, shit, I blew up a little bit too hard on that one, or
Yeah.
my 0 to 60 was out of control there, or
Yeah.
you know, I think as we get older, we start to realize it a little better sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, or maybe we're starting to just like tune shit out so much. I don't know.
I, it's funny, so like I said, I got out in 2013. Yeah, that stuff we're trained a certain way, that stuff sticks with you. And I didn't necessarily blow up at my daughter, but like for this morning, for example, I was getting them out to school and she didn't have a coat on. So instantly, and I didn't have any coffee yet. So instantly I was like 0 to 10 in a few seconds. And I'm like doing the knife hand and I'm like, where is your coat? And she was like, I don't know. I'm like, there's only one place that your coat should be, in the closet. And she was like, oh. I'm like, did you check there? No, of course not. So she checks. So we get in the car and I'm going through my little like mom spiel. And I caught myself saying, it's wintertime in Michigan. You don't walk out of the house without proper winter gear when you go to school. I've had one too many times where I was out in the cold for long periods of time, and it is not cool. Don't walk out of the house.
Proper winter gear. You are saying, yeah.
Winter gear. And then I've dropped her off, and I was like, God, I sounded retarded. Why can't I sound like a normal parent? I feel bad for her.
Oh man, no, it's great to hear it though. Actually, to be honest with you, because it's hard because a lot of dads we already just have that anger or whatever, and being a military dad comes off. But hearing it from a mother who's a veteran and talking about this, it's kind of like wow, because I feel like we don't talk about this a lot on the female side as much, right?
No, I wish we did more.
We just think that they're perfect moms. They got to be moms, but damn, you're a human being like everybody else. You go through the shit just like all of us, and you've been through probably worse than some other motherfuckers have. So, the thing about it is it's good to talk about this though, because we are humans, and we're going to make mistakes as parents and stuff like that, but we got to talk about it, right? So other people can hear it. Cause I mean, like same thing with me. I have a little low tolerance for just dumbass shit, right? So
stuff.
Don't come to me with some dumbass shit.
Prizes.
Cause you're going to get a dumbass response from me and you're going to get a dumb look or something. Cause I don't really tolerate that. My tolerance for shit is low. That's low. The one thing very I say low. Is right. That's where it's bad. Like your fucking excuse is not going to work fucking 10 times with me. Right. Like, you get it by one time, but after that, stop using that excuse, but it is, like I said, it's good to talk about these things because it just shows we're human beings and we all have our struggles. This doesn't mean we're bad parents, right? This doesn't mean this doesn't mean we're bad parents. We just handle shit differently. Our reactions are a little bit off sometimes, right? And I think that's where if I was to say like if there's a fault in me, it's probably my reactions to things. And there's situations where I'm probably good. I was probably the right person in the actual scenario of the conversation, but based off of the way I reacted, I ended up looking like the bad guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, so there was a time, because my daughter's a tween now. That's a whole other thing. So the moment she turned 11, her attitude changed. And like we've just discussed, I have a very low tolerance for stupid shit. So something had happened. She copped an attitude and it was already the end of the day. I had just sat down and I had reached my peak. So I said, okay, I'm going to need you to take your attitude and yourself to the front door, open the front door and let your attitude out because I'm not feeding her. I'm feeding you. She was like, what? I was like, you're not moving. So she's like walking to the front door. She's confused, feeling slightly uncomfortable because she doesn't know what's going on. And my poor son, he's just like, what's happening? Like, why is like, totally oblivious to what's going on? So she goes to the door and she's like, okay. I'm like, okay, now open it and you can let your attitude out. So she's like, opens the door. And she's like, okay. I'm like, tell it to leave. So she's like, you can leave now. and then I'm like, okay, now close it because I'm not heating the outdoors. So she like closes the door. I'm like, all right, thanks. Hopefully it stays outside because I'm feeding you, not her. She was like,
Mom's has completely lost it now.
stand there for a good like 5 minutes trying to like figure out what just happened. I'm like,
I'll
you
try
can
to
leave the
process
front
it.
door. You're like, go do something.
Oh my gosh, that's too much. Yeah, parenting, I tell you. Well, so, juggling being a parent and all that stuff as well, you got yourself into writing books and things like that. Now, how the hell do you find yourself time to sit down and write some books? When you put them all to sleep, it's time to write or what? Or how did you
I'm
find
right.
yourself becoming a writer?
So I actually started writing Adrenaline Rush when I was in middle school. So
Oh,
I've been
wow.
writing since I was in middle school, but I didn't
Okay.
have the whole scheme that I have now, obviously, like
Way more
planned out.
detail and stuff like
Yes,
that. Yeah.
much more details. When I originally started writing it, like I said, I have a really prominent military family. So my sole goal was to write a series that was kind of like Tom Clancy with like a Jack Ryan kind of a thing. Because you have like on Netflix, Amazon Prime, all these shows about male veterans that are going out saving the world and stuff like that. But you don't have anything like that for female veterans.
No,
So when I was
right.
in middle school, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna write a story about a female veteran who's like out now and she's all messed up from PTSD and she's saving the world.
That's interesting that you would think about that in middle school.
I mean,
that's just because you grew up, I guess, around that environment.
I
So
did, and I grew up listening to my grandpa Cobb, who fought in World War II.
oh,
I listened to him tell his like war stories. Those were like the normal stories around the Christmas tree. Was my grandpa Cobb telling like war stories of how he got hit with like sulfur and like bombed and things like that. So yeah, I started writing this story in middle school, and then after I got into the military and started experiencing these things for myself and serving with these other women and hearing their stories and stuff they've gone through, that's when I really started to like shape and mold the story into what I wanted it to be, until now where I'm like, you know what? There's like an average of 200,000 service members that get out every single year. Obviously, a portion of them are females. Where are they in all of this? Like those stories are totally undertold and overshadowed. Females aren't just coming out talking about like what they've gone through. It's all male veterans, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's like, we were there too. We went through some shit too. Like, why are we not saying anything? So, yes.
you couldn't be more right on that. And I've even just being a podcaster myself who reaches out and tries to get stories. It's hard to find female veterans out there that do want to come on and tell their stories. Because unfortunately, some of them been totally mistreated, and some of them want to be completely done with it, right? And don't want to associate or be associated with anybody in it, which really sometimes hurts me and bothers me a lot.
Yeah.
Because I have pride in the military and what it stands for. So when I hear the fucking horseshit stories, it really drives me crazy. But you're right. We need to get our female veteran stories out there. There's some amazing fucking stories out there.
There's some women I served with, and I'm like,
there's some badasses. I mean, there's some badass females out there that would do circles around any man out there. And so, and it's not even just about that. It's just the commitment that any human has to do the service. And in a man dominant world, though, we have to get these females out there, because now we have females on the front lines fighting just like men do. You know what I mean? And they got stories too. And then just like you, they become a mom and they got to switch it up. And then they got to be this loving, nurturing, caring person who was just on the fucking 50 cal mowing down motherfuckers. You know what I mean?
I'm like hunting people, and now I'm trying to like hunt Pampers and fill bottles.
Right. Shit. Like, so, it's super important to get the female version out too, because my gosh, you throw that whole element of PTSD, all these other things, and then being a mom, and then people don't understand the whole postpartum that they go through as well.
Yeah.
You know, and trying to navigate everything, and like gosh damn, you know, you literally go from doing all this stuff and boom, you're into motherhood and having to try to figure it all out.
Another like aspect of that that I pointed out on another interview was, you know, you got these women, whether it's just you coming home to your kids or you coming home to your husband or your significant other, you're now having to reconcile these two different ideas of constantly having to be strong, and there's no room for emotions or feelings or any of that stuff. Like, that's not required of you. To now, it's essential for you to be vulnerable. It's essential for an intimate relationship. So now you're coming out, you're going back into this relationship with your husband or your significant other, and you're just suddenly supposed to be vulnerable with them and open and, you know, soft and loving or whatever.
That's another element that I don't think
that's something
we
that's
ever think
no.
about.
It's extremely difficult to reconcile. And I've had a little bit of backlash on that comment, because there are some people who have come back and said, well, are you saying that it's not okay for women to be strong? No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it's required to be strong in a completely different way, where it doesn't matter whether you're a female or not. If your brother gets blown up in the desert, it doesn't matter how much you weigh. It's still your responsibility to get your ass out there and drag him to safety. It's still your responsibility to make sure, especially if you're a team leader, it's your responsibility to make sure that everybody in your team comes back alive. And if somebody dies, who do you think is writing home to their significant other or their family, explaining what happened?
Right.
We're talking about strength in a completely different capacity. So, yeah, that's.
And I got to imagine too, from a female's mindset, she probably feels a certain kind of way when she's around all like prominently men all the time. Mm-hmm. Right. You got to keep up. You got to make sure you're carrying your own weight and shit. Mm-hmm. You know, you can't be like,
and if you don't
and stuff like, right. So I imagine there's a lot more pressure built up kind of for a female who, when she's going into an environment, like I said, where she's the 10%,
extinct species.
Right, in that group, and every guys are just like, oh, check her out, or you know what I mean. There's just there's a lot of elements that come in there. But I'm glad you're talking about this stuff, and I want you to feel comfortable to talk about it as much as you want to, is because just because I'm a male on the other side doesn't mean that I'm closed-minded to hearing it. I want to hear everybody's version as well, like, because we have to be transparent in terms of how everybody's service goes, man. I mean, and how can we do better, right? If there's areas that are slacking, and to make sure that we still remain the number one fighting force in the fucking entire world.
Oh yeah. And there's, like when I first started coming out with this stuff, like my book series and talking about this stuff, I was super nervous about it because I wasn't sure what kind of feedback I was going to get.
Will you get backlash? Will you
get you're
the judgment?
You're a man basher, and you don't know what you're talking about. No, I got a lot of really positive feedback from male veterans. A lot of my male friends came on and sent me these super emotional messages, like, we're really proud of you for coming out and talking about this stuff and letting people know, hey, like, you exist too. You went through this stuff with us as well. And they know, and some of them, they were stationed in places I was stationed, where sometimes you have good leadership that takes care of you as a female, and sometimes you have leadership that treats you like shit, and you're the cancer of the unit because you're a female. So like some units, they get females in and they're like, oh, okay, we're getting a female. What issues is this going to bring? What is this going to start for us?
Yeah, a whole stigma comes with it.
Yeah. So it's like, there's not supposed to be a double standard. Everyone's treated like a soldier, But a lot of times when you're a female, there's a double standard because you're a female. So now you're getting treated differently. It's not in the good way. And you're getting like all the shitty details and talked to completely differently than, you know, your male counterparts. And like I said, like, that's not to man bash anybody. That's just the way that it goes sometimes.
Yep. And I see that's when I think a lot of people decide not to listen in the conversation no more because they don't want to hear about that part, right?
Yeah.
And that's the part where we got to listen to it all, hear what everybody's saying. I think that's why sometimes females don't even want to talk about stuff, is they're afraid of what judgment is going to come their way for basically speaking how they feel. And that shouldn't be how it is.
Yeah.
You know, we need to make it comfortable for everybody because that's how we make things better, or that's how we, you know, fix things if there's a problem.
Yeah.
And we can move on. But it's great that you're, like I said, I'm glad we're having this conversation and talking about these kind of things because I think it's very important. And I feel like more females need to start coming out, telling their stories and being proud of what the fuck they did. You know what I mean? And no matter who has something to say, stand up and be proud. You know, you guys, I feel like the odds were way more against you than any males. And so the adversity that you females have to go through is a lot. And that's the thing that people don't want to talk about or understand, say that there's adversity there or that there's still a problem. There is, no matter what. You know, humans are the way they are. You know, unfortunately, there's always going to be racists. There's always going to be people that are bigots or whatever. You're always going to have that. But that doesn't mean that that's how it's always going to, you know, that whole thing is how it is. We just have to, like I said, do better, have some transparency about it, feel comfortable to talk about it, feel okay to not be okay. And that way we can start fixing a lot of this shit. And some of these people are living in silence and struggling mentally because they can't talk about it or feel they can't talk about it.
Yeah.
And so it's just festering inside them.
Right. Yeah. I know another big issue that I try to discuss is like military sexual trauma.
Yeah.
That's a taboo topic.
Nope. Yeah.
Nobody wants to talk about that.
Nope.
Like how often, and it's not just females. When I was stationed in Korea, I dealt with more male rapes, soldier rapes, than female rapes. So it's like a major taboo topic nobody wants to talk about, but it happens more often than people think.
Unfortunately.
Amount.
Yep. Yeah, and then that's something obviously they try to keep on the hush hush.
Yeah.
But these are things like, again, if we are silent about this shit, guess what? It doesn't get fixed.
No.
The problem just gets hidden or it goes under the rug. But sometimes we got to talk about these uncomfortable things because it needs to be fucking fixed.
Yeah.
Because no one should go into somewhere where you should feel the most safest in your life because you're around people that are who are trained to protect this country and defend this country. Then you go in and find out, holy shit, I'm in a fucking world of turds.
Yeah.
You know, these guys are no different than the fuckers on the street.
Right. Like, the people that are supposed to be protecting you are actually like.
Yeah, you're supposed to have a security blanket. Like, I mean, you know, when you are a unit, you fucking become a family. You become a pact, you know, and you take care of each other. And if that person feels unsafe in that pact, then the whole that nucleus is a problem. You know, it's and then you go into battle with these people with lack of trust and stuff like that. I mean, it doesn't work out well.
I think right before I deployed, because it was my first deployment, my platoon sergeant and I were in a conversation. And he was like, when you deploy, you will see a totally different side of people, and you will suddenly see who's really your battle buddy and who all the Blue Falcons are. And immediately when we deployed, it was probably maybe a month into it. I mean, it was like Blue Falcon, Blue Falcon, Blue Falcon, Blue Falcon. And I was like, what is happening to this unit? So Yeah.
That's amazing. And like I said, these are things a lot of people don't talk about, but it's good to talk about it, you
Yeah.
know. And well, I know we kind of went a little bit off of the topic. We were on your book, and then we just
Yeah.
went totally into all this other stuff.
Well,
So
it goes into it because I
that's
talk about
perfect.
that stuff
Oh,
in
good.
my books.
Good. Well, and see,
So,
that's the great thing. I think it's crazy that you thought about writing this book, you know, in middle school, and then you actually go into the military, and now things that you just were just thoughts are actually realities for you, and you're actually in there now and you're living it every day. I
mhm.
imagine that helps shape your books for you, being able to actually explain emotions that people can't explain, right? Because
Yeah.
you know, going into a foreign country, uh you have no idea how much your adrenaline already just starts to rise
Yeah.
just being in a whole different place.
Yeah.
um and
Yeah.
I think it's great you called them adrenaline rush, and
Yeah.
it couldn't be more fitting, because that's exactly what we go through is adrenaline rides
Oh my
um
God.
the whole time we're on. I
Yeah.
don't think people understand how much our adrenaline is running, and that's a
Continuously.
reason why I think a lot of people have testosterone issues and things like that,
Mhm.
is because we were on such
Yeah.
high adrenaline for long periods of time.
Yeah. And then you come out and you start like coming down from adrenaline and you don't realize what normal feels like. And you're like, oh, icky. I don't like this at all. This is yucky.
Yeah.
But yeah, so my first book, it it really explains the main character, Kate Molson, when she's in the thick of her mess before she really starts to um really work on herself.
Mhm.
So it is a very it is a very dark book, but I have gotten a lot of positive feedback from it. But also people saying this is an emotional journey, like it's an emotionally exhausting book to read. I'm like, yeah, because I wasn't going to sugarcoat anything, and there are female veterans out there that are going through. So you have veterans that have trauma before they even go in the military, and then they go in the military and they get deployed. Now they have combat PTSD, which literally just implodes your brain. Now you got to figure out how to put all those traumas, take this timeline, you got to figure out how to put all those little traumas where they belong. And in order to work on this combat PTSD over here, you got to start working on these little traumas that happened before you even went in the military. So that, you know what I mean? So it's like this, it's just a lot of shit you got to like figure out. And so these people that have read book one are like, how is she not like, you know what? Listen, um, it's every day. It's one day at a time. That's all I can say. Like, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint.
100%.
I definitely don't condone drugs or alcohol to cope. Maybe finding some sort of healthy coping mechanism, whatever that might be for you. Mine was running in the gym, but then book two goes into all the experiences or a lot of the experiences that she went through that created what she's going through in book one. So it like explains where a lot of that trauma comes from, her military trauma. So a lot of people have liked book two more than book one. It's a little bit more uplifting, more action packed, because there's a lot of, they're like raiding houses and there's pink mist everywhere and it's kinetic. So
Damn, you get savage in there, huh? Shit.
I
You
try to
said
be
pink mist.
as realistic
Ooh, shit.
without going like Stephen King completely. So yeah.
Shit, the pink mist, though, that right there, visualized for me right off rip. That's
Yeah,
good. So the writing the books, how long did it actually take you to end up completing the first book?
oof. So the first book took me a total of started writing it in middle school. Finally or I wrote the outline in middle school. And then I started actually writing the manuscript when I was in the military, and I was in the military for 7 years. So 7 years.
Wow.
I wrote book 1 throughout my military service.
And so once you released that, did you already know there was going to be a book 2, or did
I did
you
book
just
1 and I was like, God,
I don't know if I want to do this ever again.
That was an emotional, because even like talking to my therapist about like what I was doing, he was super supportive, and he was like, a lot of veterans do it. It's really good for you because it helps you get everything out.
Yeah, it's very therapeutic.
Yeah, it's very therapeutic. So I finished book 1 and I was like, I will not be doing that again. That was a journey I do not want to repeat.
You should get PTSD from writing the damn book.
I was like, there were moments I was depressed from writing, and I was like, this is not something I want to do again. So I published it, and then I started to get feedback. People were like, when are you going to do a book 2?
Oh, no.
Like, book 2? I'm not doing it. No, you want a book 2, go write it yourself. You got book 1. Figure out a storyline. So finally,
shit, AI could write it up for you nowadays. Shoot.
Yeah, like at GPT and all kinds of stuff. Figure it out. So finally, like a couple years later, I was pregnant with my son, and I wasn't working. I was a stay-at-home mom. I was just sitting, and I was like, maybe I will write a book 2. So I started writing book 2, and as I thought about it more, I was like, I could have some real fun with this. Like, I can have the first chapter really go into like basic training and maybe touch a little bit on what we go through in basic training, and then go through like deployment and put some real stuff in there about deployments and what we go through in deployments, like what we're thinking about, how isolating it is. Just all the feelings that are associated with that people just don't think about. Like, people don't think about the fact that, so when I first got to Iraq, I struggled for the first maybe like 2 months. And my male buddies pointed out to me, because I was struggling with that feeling of isolation. Because you're in a combat zone. This is your workspace, and you're here for 365 days. You don't get to leave. This is where you're at. So my buddies were like, hey, newsflash, this is part of our job. Learning how to thrive in those feelings of isolation and absolutely love every single moment of it. So I was like, oh, okay.
Embrace the suck.
I'll have to figure out how to wrap my mind around that one. Well, I wrapped my mind around it, and, we would get mortared. It got to the point where, we would be mortared at nighttime. And sometimes those mortars, when they go off, shake you right out of your bunk. I got to a point where I was just like, it was like mid-deployment, had my iPod. I would throw my earbuds in. I'd have to get up at like, retarded early in the morning for a mission. And I'd throw my earbuds in because I was over it. I'm like, you know what? Mortar hits my chew. I guess I don't have to go into work tomorrow morning, and I'm not going to hear it because I really need to go to sleep, and I just don't care right now. So I would turn my iPod all the way up, and I would lay down and go to sleep. If I wake up in the morning, I guess I can take advantage of what's at chow. And when you're overseas, they give you like 5-star meals. So
I guess, yeah, for you.
When I was over there, it was like good food. And then I got back to the
5-star MREs.
I was like, what is this? So, yeah, I got to a point where I was like, I don't know. Your level of like caring about certain things, like, this isn't important. Dying.
Oh, yeah, we stopped running during Scud alarms and stuff at some point in time. It was just too much. I mean, I think you just get a little numb to it. You're like, fuck it. If it hits me, it's gonna hit me.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna
have to get up at 4. I'll be able to sleep in. I'm not even going to be sleeping. I'm going to be dead. So it's not going
I'll sleep for the rest of my life. How about that, huh?
So there was a
Yeah.
time I used to go jogging like around the fob. So I was at Fob Warhorse. And there was we got mortared like pretty bad when I was at like 1.5 miles trying to go around. We're just getting mortared and the alarms are going off and I see them hitting and I'm like, I'm just like still running. I'm like, I just run back to my chew.
Obstacle course now. I got a little bit of
try to get back to my pad. I don't know.
Oh gosh, yeah. It is crazy. Now, do the two books have relation to each other? Do they actually, I mean, is it book 1, book 2, or are they two separate, completely different types?
They're in relation to each other. So
okay.
Book 1, book 2, and then I am about to be finished with book 3 right now.
Look at you. I was just about to ask you. So fuck, I guess you're just now you're gonna keep going or what? Now there's gonna be
I'm gonna keep going. So I actually started on book 4. Book 3
so these are all together. This is
all together. It's a series.
Okay.
So book 3 is Operation Homefront, and it goes much more into like the transitioning process.
Bringing it home, when you're when you're coming home and all that stuff.
So, like there's one of her buddies that she's really close with. Yeah, he's struggling with like survivor's guilt, and I go into a lot of those little nitty gritty things, and there's some action in there because like people are obviously still trying to kill Kate Molson. So I was like, I gotta throw action in here. It can't just be all like PTSD. Yeah. So, and then book 4 is going to be Operation Reckoning, where they're going to end up going back to Iraq.
Recalled.
Yeah. So
now she in the book, does she stay in the military or she got out or?
She got out and she works for a like a government agency now called the JCIA, or the Joint Criminal Investigation Agency. So she's like an investigator, basically the same kind of a thing that she was doing when she was in the military. She just does both like government and civilian sides. If that makes sense.
So now are you on fire with writing this shit now? You just say everything like boom, everything just keeps coming to you, or do you get that, or do you get kind of that writer's block where you're just like, oh shit, I
do have writer. The only time I get writer's block, honestly, is when I'm trying to articulate and describe things in regards to like transitioning or combat PTSD or like adjustment disorders, things like that, survivor's guilt, because those things, like it's not something that I go out of my way to try and think about on a daily basis.
No,
so,
right. No,
sure. I sit down, at nighttime in front of my computer, and I'm like trying to get my headspace to where I was before. Like, what was I thinking about when I got home from Iraq?
So a lot of this, is it coming from your feelings and what you're like, the way you feel from it, or how do you get those emotions?
So it's myself and it's other people that I served with.
Gotcha.
Because there's people I've served with, really good friends of mine who are, like I said, I got out in 2013. I got back from deployment in like January of 2012. Those people, those good friends of mine, are still like in the thick of trying to figure their stuff out. So it's like my emotions mixed with the emotions of other people. So it's not just solely me. It's like it's a mixture. It's a conglomerate of people.
Got you. Wow. So what book number are you going to stop at?
I have no idea.
No shit. So this one could just run as long as you feel like keep going with it, or do you feel like you might venture off into something else? Do you really like the military genre?
I adore the military genre. It's all I've done. It's all I know.
And right.
A friend of mine suggested that I tried something else, and I tried to write a romantic comedy, and that did not work at all. It was pretty
rom-com.
It was pretty awful. It was amusing, but then, you know, like I send her my work sometimes to kind of review it to get another eye on it. And she'll laugh and she'll be like,
"Are you just not the romantic type or what?"
No, actually, I'm a hopeless romantic. I just don't write rom-coms.
Right, got you.
Rom-coms. So she was like, yeah, this sounds like it's going to turn into like a horror book or something. Should probably just stick.
About to have some peak mist in this motherfucker.
I'm like, what? This is romantic. She's like, yeah, normal people don't act like this, Bevin, at all. This, you should trash it. Throw it in the trash.
Oh man, it starts off with a car accident right off rip. Like,
right? And they fall in love.
Oh, sheesh, that's crazy. So let's talk a little bit more about where people could find your book. I got Amazon brought up. That's definitely one spot. Is this the best place to go get your book?
That is the best place to get it. If you live in Michigan, you can get it at R&B Books, which is located in Grand Blanc. I think there's a few more copies at Second and Charles and Auburn Hills, or you can order it through me. So if you get on my Facebook or my Instagram and you message me, you can order directly through me.
Oh, awesome. And then they get a signed copy if they go through you?
Absolutely.
Well, that's the best way to go then.
That's the best way to go.
So go pick yourself up a copy today, or contact Bevin and go get yourself a signed copy. That's even better. I like signed copies.
Absolutely. And it'll be worth more.
Heck yeah. All right. So I really appreciate you coming on. We could probably talk a lot longer. Is there any things that we didn't touch on, or any last minute little thoughts you would like to add before we get off?
Not that I can think of. Some super exciting details coming up next year after the holidays. And my book is available in Michigan, and I think it's like 6 different libraries right now. It's been accepted.
Hell yeah.
So
Sweet.
I'm going to be posting a list on Facebook of what libraries you can go to check it out.
Cool. Go give her a follow on all her social medias. And Bevin, please, I'm not sure if you're on my Every Day's a Saturday group, but if not, let's get you added on there. And please feel free to, plug away on your book and stuff like that. I love when I go through comments and I see people making transactions in that group, because that's what it's there for, is to like network with each other. And, someone in there might be wanting a new book or something to check out and read. So, please feel free to go on that group and plug away.
Yeah.
But
absolutely. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. And any last words?
Not that I can think of. Not off the top of my head.
All right. Well, once again, I thank you so much, and I appreciate all that you're doing and writing books and stuff, and being transparent with your story as well. And thank you so much for your service and all that you're doing for our country. And have an amazing day, an amazing week. And if you need anything, please feel free to reach out. I'm always here. And if you want to come back on and you want to talk more about your new books and stuff like that,
yeah, for sure.
There's always going to be a chair here for you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
But yes, thanks again. And we'll see you.
Yeah, see ya.
All right, friends and fam. Well, that's going to go ahead and wrap up another great episode. And you guys go pick yourself up a copy and get yourself some adrenaline rush. That was an amazing interview, and I love having female veterans on. If you're a female veteran out there and you served our country, please feel free to come on. Let's talk about your story, your experiences. Let's be proud of what you've done, and we can learn a lot from each other by just talking about all the great things that we've done and all the experiences that we experience. Some of us have great experiences when we get out. Some of us have bad experiences. I think it's important that we share all of it, so that way we can learn from one another. But hey, you know how we say on the show, have an amazing day. Don't let the day kick your ass. Make sure you're out there kicking it. Until next time, we'll see you guys.
Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.